Hey everybody, it's me, Jake, from Jake and Off. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. This week I am joined by a very funny comedian from right here in Kansas City. Give it up for Mike Holloway, everybody. Michael Holloway, let him hear it. You can find Mike on Instagram at mholloway, HOLLOWAY 2000. mholloway 2000. Find him on Instagram. He's got his stand-up dates there and all that stuff. And then also, big shout-out to KC Fringe coming up. Got a lot of comedy events happening there at the Bird Comedy Theater. So make sure you check out that for some of those events this year. Fringe Festival is always a super good time. And check out Mike's girlfriend, Danielle. She's a comedian, too. And she's doing some Fringe comedy performances. So make sure you check her out as well. I'll have links to that stuff in the description of this podcast. It'll be in there, the information. So check that out. Other than that, you know what it is. You know what time it is, Jake Off Nation. Make sure you follow the podcast at jakeand.off.podcast. And make sure you send anything at all to jakeand.off.podcast@gmail.com. I'll look at it at least one time. So that's our rule. That's the big Jake and Off guarantee. But other than that, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. I really, really appreciate it. And you know what? Maybe tell your friends about it. Maybe share it with one of your friends or something like that. Do us a solid. So without further ado, I love you very much and I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a good listen to the episode. Have a nice listen to the episode.
Won't you take off with me? Oh, I know it's your fantasy. Oh, won't you take off with me? Yeah,
I don't know. That's always been a pet peeve of I feel like not just me, but probably comedians everywhere is like people
where it's just derivative and yeah. I have a love-hate relationship right now with AI. I don't. The last job we want it to take is artist job. That's the last thing we want it for.
Right.
Like dig a fucking ditch or like don't. And I'm not a visual artist, and so I've been trying to use it for that part of it to do concepts. This is what I kind of want, and then you give that to an artist to
that makes sense.
Is it just a communication tool because I'm not good at describing a thing?
No, that makes total sense though. Like I definitely think that there's stuff that you can use it for that's like awesome and good, but then some of it is like dude, we should not have this. People should not be able to make a video of like the president saying whatever, even though some of it is really funny. Like it's really funny. There are videos of like people they use Donald Trump's voice, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama, and they act like they're playing Call of Duty together and like saying a bunch of crazy stuff. And while I do acknowledge that is hilarious, maybe we should not be able to do that.
Did you see they added something where you have to say this was AI generated, like some of the content, like Instagram, I can't remember which one, but it's like you have to say this is a majority AI generated thing.
Which who's like, how do you even like do that in a way, because couldn't somebody just lie?
Well, sure. Yeah, it's just a toggle switch, of course. Yeah.
Somebody could just lie about it.
Yeah, I guess it would be, maybe it's just like, I'm going to say it is, just like you say it's adult content.
Right,
And then somebody comes back and say, you didn't say it was adult content, clearly is, you're off. And so maybe it's just that. Like
the threat of a strike of some kind.
Yeah.
We'll see, dude. I feel like that stuff is gonna, I don't know. I hate saying that it's going to be scary because I don't want to sound like the person who's like, oh, everything's like crumbling or like da-da-da-da-da, because that's not necessarily how I feel about it. But I think it's going to produce some very unique issues in the future that'll be like interesting to see how they...
the jury's out. It's people... I think the fear part of it, of this is going to take my job, this is going to do whatever. I don't think and it will. Some people's jobs it will take, just like the cotton gin did and every other.
Any invention of all time.
Any advancement. and as when cars got easier to drive, we didn't need the drivers anymore. All that, whatever. And so that's just progress. I just hope that, like those other things, it elevates and lets us enjoy our lives more and take the parts we like from it.
You know what? This is a really interesting segue into one of the first topics that we have to discuss today. So I found this story, and this is so this is about this remote tribe in the Amazon that got they got access to the internet through Elon Musk's Starlink.
Right.
And at first it was awesome because they were like, we can get help with snake bites. We can, this is literally saving people's lives because we can get a hold of people quicker. But like now it's divided this tribe because a bunch of people are addicted to porn now on social media almost immediately.
Right.
And so all these people in this tribe are like, dude, this is terrible. Like, why did you guys get this internet
Introduce
for
this
us?
to us,
Like, this is awful. They're worried about all the young people, like, spend all their times on their, like, all the time on their phones now. They had to, like, limit internet access. They're like 1 hour in the morning. 5 hours at night, which I'm like, that's too much still. Yeah. But like, whatever. And then they're like all day on Sunday.
We've really spread our culture. We have really introduced the absolute worst thing about us to the world.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it in the article is it's talking about like how they ended up with all the, dishes, the satellite dishes that they have on the ground in order to like access the stuff. And it's like donated by some, venture capitalist lady is like clearly thinks she's doing something good. She's like, yeah, they'll use the internet. And of course, some people are using it this way. There's like, they interview teens there that are like, I want to move to Sao Paulo and become a dentist now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Or like travel the world. And you're like, yeah, that is the positive side of it.
Right.
But like, I don't know, dude. It's just anytime something like this happens, I'm like, did nobody consider the porn? Did nobody think about this?
I would like, no filters on it. It's coming through, which I mean, it's got to be open, right? You got to let people make their own choices and figure it out. I want to see, I've read a little bit about this already, but I would like to see what the targeted ads are for the African tribe.
That would be really, really interesting, dude. They're like, who knows? I mean, I get all kinds of crazy stuff like what Wish, which is now like Temu or something. Yeah. It's like it'll literally just be like a Ziploc bag full of powder. Right. I'm like, what is this?
A plastic adapter to two things I don't have.
It would be really interesting to see like what could it possibly be. Yeah. I don't know. I bet it's a lot of porn.
It probably is. Yeah. Now that you say,
I bet that it's like a lot of porn.
They've trained they train the ad as much as the ad trains them.
Oh man, it just is like so. I feel like it's very I feel like it's one of these things where it's like if they would have talked to just a regular person about this idea, like any normal human being like that has had access to the internet for a good amount of time would have been like, what's going to happen? Yeah. Is that everybody's going to start looking at porn.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to go into a bit because I have a whole thing about this.
I know.
Maybe I just should. But yeah, it is definitely the every new medium. That's like we figure out the history, we learned about the world, we share our literature and art, and then we jerk off to it pretty quick, and then we just keep jerking off.
What is it? Is it called? I think it's called like Rule 54 or whatever online, which is like anything that exists, there's porn of it. Right. There's like any porn, dude. Evan Golt and Casey Famous will like. They'll like show me like it'll be like Scooby-Doo with like huge titties or something like that. I'm like, who is making this? Yeah. Who is making this and why are they showing it to this Amazon tribe?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to. I'm going to use my youngest kid's terms here that I probably am using wrong, but everyone wants to like they see something and they want to ship them, right? I want Kirk and Spock to fuck. I want
Kirk and Spock, dude. Kirk and Spock, Scooby.
And
Mulder
and Scully. That was the when I was a kid. Everybody
Scooby
wanted
and Shaggy?
them. Scooby and Shaggy. I guess so. I guess so. Scooby and Velma,
Garfield and
any
John.
Combination.
Yeah, any combination. Just as long as they're in the van.
Yeah. It's whoever I see myself as and whoever the person I want to be with. So
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
little bit of a
interesting.
Scooby, and I'm feeling Fred's action.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let's get it together.
Oh, dude, they're jerking off though. They're worried. All the older people are like, we're gonna lose our way of life because their
Right.
whole history, it's all oral history. Like everything is
Yeah.
passed down orally and stuff. And they're like, yeah, there's obviously not every young person is like jerking off
Right.
or whatever. We don't want to make it sound like that, but like,
What productive thing have they done with it? I mean, you said like they've learned about the world, but can they take that history, that's an oral history, and record it?
I would think that would maybe be, probably something they're working on. My biggest thing that I understood was that like, since they're so remote, and they live in the Amazon, that there's so many things that are like deadly and stuff to them
Right.
that like when somebody gets a snake bite or whatever, they can call like the ambulance
Okay.
or like get help with that way. They in the article that I read, one of the spokespeople for this tribe was like, this has already saved a lot of people's
Okay,
lives. Actually.
that's great.
So they're like, there's plenty of people who are like, we see the good and the bad in this, like,
Yeah.
but there's obviously a lot of people who are like, my kid won't quit jerking off
Right.
now. And they're like, they said that immediately, like a lot of the teenagers were sending porn to one another in group chats
Right.
and stuff. And I was like, yeah,
Like
that's
homemade porn or something they found?
stuff that they found
Okay.
online, I would imagine.
Okay.
Hopefully not homemade stuff. It didn't specify, but yeah, hopefully it's just stuff that they found, which I've always thought is like weird. Like, I don't know if you've ever had like somebody send you like porn or something and you're like, hey man, like,
Dude,
don't
I was
do this.
working at a company. I will not say the company's name. But I was working for, it is a large mutual fund company based nearby. And I've already said too much. And this was right around 99, 2000.
Okay.
And there was like memes were kind of new. There was this thing called
Yeah.
Mr. T ate my balls that got around quite a bit. It was a cartoon. You can Google that. Anyway,
I'm listening. I'm gonna
there
Google
became this thing. Okay, I hope I'm saying that right. But that was one that got around a lot. But there was we had an event where a pretty significant number of people. There was maybe 2,000 employees in this company, and I would say 50 people got fired in what was later called Porngate.
like a porn ring.
Yeah. And it was just somebody found something, sent it to somebody, and somebody sent it to somebody else. And I think in one case, somebody sent a pretty massive file where somebody who like ran the server was like, you can't send like 20 meg videos to people inside the companies. And then they went and saw what it was. It's like, oh, we got to backtrack this. And it turns out there was a whole thing.
Yeah, they followed a web and fired 50 people. That's wild.
And like there was like a fund manager or two in there. It was
Yeah,
pretty
I bet.
significant. And a lot more people got called in. And I got called in, and they said, hey, this thing is going around. This is happening. You're going to hear a lot about this. You were sent this and you deleted it and didn't forward it. And that's what we need you to keep doing.
Wow, dude.
So I was one forward away from losing my
That's
job. Maybe.
honestly sick, though. Like, they called you in and were like, we just want to tell you how much we appreciate you not being a freak at
That's a
work."
nice spin on it. I
Yeah.
don't think it was so much that. It was like you're associating with the wrong people. I think it was a cautionary more than it was a thank you. But
a warning shot.
yeah, exactly. That's a nice way to phrase it.
So funny. They're like, Mike,
I
you
think I
can't-
knew enough about computers to know that this was trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, if I send this porn digital footprint,
Yeah.
they're gonna be able to figure it out.
And we didn't. I think there was just this feeling that it was all anonymous. That you could have shared something with something, and that
And
was
it was
it.
just
And
like,
it's like,
via email, or
yeah, it would have been email
So how did
because
they
like
think
this
it
was
was
before
anonymous,
smartphones or anything. Like this
because if
was
somebody has your email address, then they know that it's you.
sure. Well, this was
Yeah.
the company email.
That's so
the company
funny.
email.
Why did they think that it was anonymous?
I
dude?
think
That's so
it's
crazy.
what
it was
we
just at a time before a lot of people understood. Maybe.
well,
or?
I think it was the feeling that there was an anonymity to just a massive volume of communication.
Okay, so
that
not
so
necessarily,
much is constantly
I was
going.
Say I was like even in 2000, like. Because like I would have been in like a young kid in school, but when we had computer class, they would be like, and also the other thing that you need to know about computers is that
Nothing's ever gone.
Nothing ever goes away.
Right.
You can't take anything
Yeah.
down for real.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, yeah, even at that time, it's like it was common knowledge. Like, yeah, you gotta be.
This was absolutely a group of people that should have known better. These
That's
were
so funny.
people mostly in
But
their
they're just
20s.
too horny, dude.
We got
People
to
are
keep
too
it going.
horny.
Look at this. And I think some of it was the honest intention and the stuff that I think what they were talking about, they never even got real detailed. Like that would have been so funny in HR. It's like, you got a video of this guy sucking off this.
Yeah.
And it's like this, but well, let me just show it to you.
Yeah.
You got this video.
They call you in and are like, Mike, have you seen this video?
Yeah. I was like, I've seen the first 5 seconds of it and then I stopped, but yeah, because this
does
would
that
be,
follow those people, you think?
I
you think
doubt
that they,
it.
Like, apply it at the next
I
job?
doubt
They're
it.
Like, why did you lose your job before? And they're like,
I don't think it probably follows you career wise because we don't even really, it's just, we'll ask. Nobody that you call to a previous job and say, why did this person get fired? Anybody who knows what they're doing will not answer that question.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, you get no benefit from it and it just exposes you to lawsuits, right? So
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
answers
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I think, but I had a good friend who was, this company offered tuition reimbursement.
Ooh.
And so I had a friend who was taking advantage of that in a big
Yeah.
way, but it required you to like finish it and get this certain number of grade or whatever.
yeah.
So he got canned in this and not only lost his job, he was also newlywed, he also lost all his tuition reimbursement.
Dang, dude.
So I would say it probably followed him around for a little while with his wife, probably. Yeah.
That sucks, dude. I wonder too, like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you can't send porn at work though, dude.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. As much as I think, like,
And it's, I feel it's, go ahead, sorry.
I don't know. I just, as much as I think it's like that sucks. Like that's
Yeah.
like so harsh.
Yeah.
You lose your job and now you owe all this money
Yeah.
or whatever for school. That blows. All for a little porn, but also can't send porn at your job, dude.
Yeah, I think for the most part, and I want to see the best in people, I think for the most part, what they were sending was because, oh, you'll think this is funny. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't a. I thought this was super hot and really
Yeah.
got off on it, and you'll think that. I think it was. Oh my God! Look at this like terrible acting in this porn or something. Oh, I don't.
Yeah, maybe.
I might be looking on the bright side
for sure. I guess too. Like every time that somebody has sent me porn, like
Yeah.
or something, it's always somebody who I already was like.
I'm thinking of blocking you.
Yeah, something's weird
Right.
about you. Like,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I never have blocked the person, but I've been like, hey, don't send me porn, please.
Yeah.
Like, it's just weird. One person, which I'll at least bleep this out, if not cut it out completely. I don't know
Okay.
if you've had the pleasure of meeting them in the local comedy scene.
I don't know.
Okay, so dude is this guy who I've known him for years, and for all
Great
intents and
stage name.
purposes, yeah, for all intents and purposes, very nice guy. He just, I don't know if he's had like some kind of brain injury,
Okay.
or if he was born the way that he is, but it's like he's just off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to explain it
All right.
exactly. You'd have to meet him to know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So I'll give you like.
And that I would say that describes a lot of people in our community.
Yes. But
Yeah.
this guy, one time I was hosting an open mic, and he was like up next or up in a couple people, and came and sat next to me by the stage, and he took something out of his like breast coat pocket, and it was like a little like it almost looked like a marijuana grinder, but it wasn't. Like, you know what I mean? I know what one of those looks like.
Okay.
But it was like a container made out of like similar sort of material, and he opened it up and he sniffed it, and then he was like, "Hey, do you want to sniff this?" And I was like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Sorry, man, I'm weird." And then he just put it back in his pocket.
Okay.
And like another dude, he does like he's like a scrapper, or like he scraps stuff, and so like sometimes on Facebook he'll post, it'll just be like a picture of like a bunch of chainsaws. It'll be like, I'm selling these chainsaws or something, or like one of the scariest ones is it was just a bed. It was a bed full of wigs, like just a bunch of wigs on his bed. It was like wigs for sale, and like dude, like he's showing up to open mics, like he'll be driving a truck with like just like old tires like stacked like comically high, like it's like it looks like a cartoon how many like tires this guy had in his pickup truck. But he has sent me like it'll be like some tits or whatever,
just a picture or something.
Yeah. And him, I don't even say please stop, just because it's like I don't think that he understands.
I think it's just a funny kind of line. Like I have a few friends that are my age that are we're just kind of nostalgia junkies. I think we're at that age where it's like, oh, any like stuff from the late 70s and 80s really, like, and I saw a 1980 black Trans Am, very similar to this Pontiac Firebird, similar to what Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this was tight. The car I wanted, you know, at that age. This was my 10-year-old dream car or something. And I'm like, that. And then that pretty quickly might turn into, oh man, remember like Linda Carter, how hot she was on Wonder Woman? And then you're just like, we're just a couple more steps, right?
Yeah, all of us are only a degree removed from porn at any time. But that's just the society that we live in. Right. And that's just, it's like your joke. It's all porn. Everything.
You'll get there very quickly there. Yeah.
But still, dude, I do think that it's like, it's just the idea of like getting in a group chat with like people and being like, yo, this is what I just jerked off to.
Right.
Check this out. Hey guys, I just finished. You should try this.
You know, I know you talked about this on a recent episode, but this was like 19 this is gonna be the nostalgia episode. This was 1990 maybe, and I had briefly associated with the fraternity. I'm going to say it that way. I hung around for a few months, didn't end up joining.
Briefly associated with the fraternity that's a good. Yeah, that's like a very creative.
It turned out not to be my jam, but I went. There was like people were going out, and we all went to this. Some dude's apartment to like hang out a little bit first, and then we were all going to go out somewhere. And he, this guy, I did not know this at the time. His name was Kendall. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's not listening.
Yeah, Kendall is a part of Jakeoff Nation, dude.
Yeah. And he was known in this fraternity as the guy with just a massive VHS porn library, and you could check out from his library.
Yeah,
right?
So he would like. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, the world was so different.
Yeah.
I've never, because for as long as I've been able to jerk off, I've been able to look at porn instantly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really do feel like I'm not trying to overstate this, but I do feel like that is one of the biggest generational differences between like, you know, Generation Z to millennials to Gen X and all that stuff is like, people did have to like work really hard for or go through some
there was
level,
awkward there was an
level
awkward
of
thing.
Embarrassment to, like, get porn. You had to go to a video store or something, or like,
and the guy who works at the video store who the type of video store that rented out porn maybe wasn't necessarily the guy you wanted to share some of your personal feelings with.
And also like who and
I sort of imagine it as being like like, you know, when you go to Trader Joe's and they're like, oh, do you have these coconut nuts are awesome, you know, like, and there's something like, I almost wouldn't want the recommendation. Like if you pick it up and it's like, oh man, this is classic.
Ironically, it's also a guy in a Hawaiian shirt still.
Usually, yeah, I think so, probably.
In Trader Joe's and the porn
Oh
store.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
They have the same uniform.
that has replaced that gig.
Oh, dude. Okay,
Yeah.
so this actually ties into another thing that
Okay.
I had. So Kim Kardashian
Mm-hmm.
became famous primarily, like, one of the things that launched her career was the sex tape with Ray J.
Fact.
And Ray J just was on.
I haven't heard from Ray J in a while.
Well, get ready. You're
Okay.
about to hear from him right now. He was on Shannon Sharp's
Okay.
podcast,
Right.
Club Shay Shay,
Mm-hmm.
and he had something interesting to say about the whole Kim Kardashian Ray J sex tape, and like his argument. And I'm gonna play his video so you can hear his words. But basically, what he's saying is that like the world would be a completely different place in almost every way if that sex tape hadn't been released.
That was the butterfly wing that set us on a path.
Yeah, yeah. So here it is.
How different is that family, or is that family life?
You know, I think more of the question is how different would we all be? How different would this whole fucking thing be? How different would the industry be? How different would the wheel roll? Everything would be different. We would all be different. All of us. Everybody in here would be different. We would have on different clothes.
What you mean?
Everything would be different, meaning like you would never ask me that question. Meaning if we sat here right now and we got to this point.
Oh my
Which,
gosh.
I gotta stop it. The idea that they'd be wearing different clothes,
Right.
it's like, yeah, maybe it'd just be like a different day, like,
Right.
or something. I don't think that the Kim Kardashian sex tape
was quite
like,
the tsunami ripple that
changed fashion forever.
Right.
It maybe
Right.
changed who's profiting off fashion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe like a dress looked a little different or whatever, but I still think fashion, like especially high fashion, like the kind of stuff that this guy is probably like referring to, is like it would still be like shitty garbage stuff for very rich people, you know? Like it wouldn't be accessible. Like you and I would still dress the same.
Right. Yeah, I don't think her influence is felt in my wardrobe, probably my cargo pants. Yeah. I wonder this is how I disagree with Ray J. And on most things I 100% line up with him. But in this one aspect I disagree, is that what was special about that sex tape? And I would say the only thing that was special about it was Kim.
Yeah. I think
fair. Kim would have been famous one way or another.
Yeah.
This happened to be what it was.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
And the other thing also is I think that, you know, it gets a lot of credit because it's like one of the first sort of like big sex tape scandals like that.
Right.
But dude, at the end of the day, like this was gonna happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like it's not. This is just. It's like porn again. It's like we're back to it, and it's like this. Of course, this exists. Which like. This is also some of this is like a degree of I don't know because some people accuse Kim Kardashian's mom of being the one to release the sex tape.
Yeah, and if that's true, is that brilliant?
It is kind of.
Yeah.
It is kind of brilliant. Yeah. But it's also slimy.
Yeah.
It's also really slimy.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
gross. Yeah.
Bad, but like it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me to find out that the mother of Kim Kardashian is like a slimy. Like,
so is this like a conspiracy theory in a sense, or
this is just Ray J's opinion?
Okay.
This is just Ray J firmly believes that like his place is the guy who fucked Kim Kardashian on video. Like it puts him like they changed the world somehow.
And is there any other reason why? And I will plead ignorance a little bit here. I have never seen any episode of any show that has the word Kardashian in it, and so that's
I think I've seen clips that have made me laugh. Like I've
clips.
I've dunked on a clip from where it is Kim Kardashian is accusing one of the other Kardashians of stealing her wedding country. Like she got married in
Okay.
Italy,
Okay.
and she's like, she stole my wedding.
That was
country.
my, like, Cuomo was mine. Yeah, right.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Like every time that I've seen something from it, it's the most unhinged,
Yeah.
insane, like out of touch, which I do love that.
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think I get why it's entertaining to people.
Yeah, for sure. And I need somebody to boil it down to clips for me.
Yeah,
That's as much as I
couldn't
can
watch
take.
like
Yeah.
a 30-minute show of Kim Kardashian
Choosing a paint color for her, foyer.
choosing a paint color for her foyer, like buying something lavishly expensive.
Yeah.
Like that's a storyline so many times. Is like
Right.
in a lot of those shows is they're like, I'm gonna go buy something crazy expensive.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't just buy this stuff all
Mm-hmm.
willy-nilly. They're like, I'm not just going to buy it to buy it. And it's
Right.
like, yeah, you are. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I think that is the appeal of the show. So I appreciate that.
It's a fantasy.
Right.
Yeah. You get
Yeah.
to like live out
Exactly.
vicariously. You're fucking Kim Kardashian.
Right.
You are this rich, like extravagant lady.
Right.
That's what all of like Bravo is.
Yeah.
That entire network. It's sick.
Yeah,
It's like-
that's what it's devolved into. We have my girlfriend and I have an obsession strong, but we love Naked and Afraid.
Oh, okay. I fuck with Naked and Afraid. Yeah.
which I know has like been around for a while. She introduced me to it. I love it, and it is and it's its own world in the sense
Yeah.
that like they have their Naked and Afraid fame. Like there are Naked and Afraid
and they're
fans.
like rankings and stuff.
Yes.
They have like those
Right.
rankings, and like every time they go on, if they like fail or pass or whatever,
Yeah.
their ranking goes up and down and stuff. It's like a special ranking system just for the people
Yes.
who are on the show.
Yes, you PSR.
Yeah, PSR. That's exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's like the opposite of the Kardashians.
Yeah.
They're like you're living
exactly.
vicarious through them as like they're naked people in the woods.
I am
That's so funny,
I am
actually.
watching a world that I am not going to be a part of, and honestly would suck at. Like I wouldn't last a day.
That's
I'd be
really
terrible.
funny. That's really, really funny.
I'm pretty good. Like there's two approaches to the survivalist on the show, right? One is like they work really hard. We're gonna build a boma and we're gonna keep the animals out, and I'm gonna hunt. I'm making a wire out of whatever. And then there's the other one's like, if we just do nothing and
we
conserve
expend,
all of our energy,
the fewest,
yeah.
littlest amount of energy possible.
I don't have to eat if I never move.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. And I would do okay at that.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
make it a couple days at that version.
Dude, the thing that freaks me out is like the bugs, dude. Just getting
Oh, my
bug
God.
bites all over your balls.
They
and
underestimate it too. They think
Yeah.
it's going to be a puma, and it's not. It's a mosquito that
stuff.
gets you.
Dude.
Yeah.
No, that would be terrible. That's the thing that I think would easily send me over the edge. Like I'm not a big like
That one and the tainted water would be the two things
Oof.
that I fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely, because I just drink so much water
Yeah.
like, all the time.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love drinking water. It tastes so good.
I'm gonna have a sip right now.
Yeah,
I'm
go
drinking
ahead.
Kool-Aid, but still, I get your point.
But it tastes so good. And like, I know that I wouldn't be able to like stop myself from accidentally drinking.
I gotta
Something-
boil like a half a gallon at a time and wait, and it'd be rough. It'd be rough.
Yeah, it'd be
And even
awful.
then, it's gonna even when you clear out the bacteria, it's still gonna be dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's Ray J telling us that if
I'm
him
sorry,
and
I've
Kim
gone way off
Kardashian, no, if they didn't have their sex tape, Naked and Afraid wouldn't
Right,
exist
right.
or something. The whole world. I'm gonna keep playing this.
Okay,
it's
please.
a little bit longer, but he gets wild with it.
Or ask me that question. Meaning, if we sat here right now
Right.
and we got to this point, what, like, I don't know, probably more people will be going to college and, you know what I'm saying, getting an education to be successful. There might not be any OnlyFans and other things like that, other
okay.
opportunities like that. So, I mean, are we a part of the cure? Are we a part of the disease? I don't fucking know. All I know is I'm just trying to make it right.
Were you ever embarrassed when the tape came out?
Yeah. I have kids now, so when I have kids,
And they go,
everything that we did now when I have kids is just totally different. The whole thing is wacky. Before I was just like, But with my kids, it's not okay. And so I can't, without me going too far into it, without me getting in trouble. Yeah, I mean, nah, it's not okay now. But I'm 43 with a kid that's 4 and a kid that's 6. My daughter's 6, my son's 4. And even though you're young, and even in that young kid world, they'll all probably think it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Until you have kids.
Wow. I haven't hung on a pause like that for a long time.
That was crazy. Just to say the answer that everyone was expecting him to say.
Right.
Which is yes.
And had he not thought about it in the last 20 years?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
too long of a pause for the answer that we all expected.
Yeah.
I think that what is happening here is that I think Ray J is having some regrets.
Yeah.
And is working through that and is projecting a lot of stuff onto everybody else. OnlyFans would definitely exist even if Kim
100%.
Kardashian... It already did in a certain capacity, like with cam girls or whatever.
For
like
sure.
that kind of shit. Like, OnlyFans would for sure still be a thing today, even if that sex tape never came out.
Yeah. I have this
Crazy.
theory. I almost talked about this on stage last night. I didn't, but it was 1888, I think, that give or take, that Thomas Edison came up with like the first video camera, and he had this assistant named William Dixon, who and they worked on it together, and then it was 6 years later before the first like
Pornographic
porno movie came out, which was just this lady dancing. It was called Fatima's Coochie Coochie Dance was the name of it, by the way, for the historians out there. And I'm like, there is no way it took them 6 years. There's no possible way. I don't even think Bill and Tom got out of the lab without having a little something.
Yeah, one of them took out their dick.
100%.
Like,
you're developing the film yourself.
Yeah, dude.
You
Yeah.
have to-
Yeah, that's so true though. And it's certainly 6 years. It's just the first one that we knew about.
Yeah, that's the first one that like survived.
Yeah.
And got
it'll
a
be
name.
like when an alien comes to Earth, we'll be like, well, this is just the first one that we knew
Sure.
about.
For sure.
It's the same thing with that porn video.
Yeah.
That Thomas Edison porn video. Dude, it is just like so, I don't know. It's crazy how porn is everywhere, all over the place,
Yes.
like we've been talking about. But also, I don't necessarily consider it like in the terms of like how Ray J is talking, how like our society would be like totally different if we didn't have specific porn. I'm like, no, I don't think that that's the way that porn works. It's not like not like the movies where like there's like a certain film that gets made where it like changes the way that like people make film or whatever. I'm sure that I'm wrong. I'm sure that there's porn out there that has been made that people are like, this changed the way that they do porn forever. But I'm saying like it doesn't. There's not porn out there that has changed our society.
It didn't change the medium. It didn't change what we want. I think there isn't. I think here what I think are probably the biggest impacts of it. It would porn was before and after. If it did truly put Kim on a national stage, if it did launch her, I'm talking about it like we're friends. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know.
Miss Kardashian.
Ms. K. Kim K. If it did put her on the national stage, I think maybe the biggest impact is it advanced what would have already also come in one form or another, time or another, what we think of as like the way a sexy woman is shaped.
Yeah, no, that is true. Because I do think that I agree with that. I get on board with that. And if Ray J would have said that, then he would have been correct. But instead, Ray J's being like, you'd be dressed different. You'd be wearing different clothes right now.
You'd be
like,
wearing a
come on,
kilt.
dude.
You'd be wearing those Apple goggles.
What would be that much different, like in terms of that stuff? I would question, but I do think you're right because she had that whole thing where she like broke the internet or whatever,
Right?
And it was just a picture of her butt,
Right?
And like,
And now all of a sudden this our taste, which that's also changes throughout time, right? When I was a kid, it was very skinny and you had twiggy, and that's changed over time, and curvy. It comes, every fashion comes and goes and all that.
Right. Yeah, she did. So, she ushered in the BBL era.
Right.
The Brazilian butt lift
That's
era,
right.
dude.
That's right.
Nice.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you've been getting some emails at work.
Yeah. My boss listens to the show, though.
Dude, if nobody that's in charge of other people should listen to this podcast, and I've always said that.
That's
okay. Well, let's talk about something that's also about butts.
Okay.
Did you hear about this? This is this Texas judge just made a ruling that says, and this is the headline: Texas library must reinstate books with butts and farts, court says.
I'm going to just digest that for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Butts and farts.
And so basically, like, a bunch of books about butts and farts had been taken out because people are crazy. They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
They think that if they stop a kid from reading about farts, that they're not going to be gay or something.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But what was really funny to me about this is the headline, hilarious, farts and butts.
Yeah.
Put farts and butts back in our schools, dude.
Yeah.
That's just kid shit, man. Come on. But
Yeah. Well, so I'm for this 100% because if a kid is checking out a book because he wants to read about farts and butts, then he's reading.
yeah, he's reading. Let him read.
Let him read.
Let the kids read.
Somewhere, just let the children read. That's what Dolly would want us all to do.
Dolly Parton, they're sick of her. She's got that library where she'll send kids books.
Right.
It's all about farts.
Mostly farts.
It's all
mostly
about
farts. Some
farts.
butts, but mostly farts.
Actually, my kids have been reading a book about farts by Dolly Parton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have any kids,
Okay.
but they've been reading a book about Dolly Parton. It's Dolly Parton's farting.
Do you think Dolly Parton? Do you think that if Ray J hadn't put out that tape, that you would have kids now?
No,
right.
dude. I had started my. What year did that come out? Actually,
Good question.
I think it was like. What year was it? I
I'll
don't
say
know.
2007. No, it's got to be
No
before that.
way.
It's got to be before that, right? Yeah.
Kim Kardashian sex tape release.
Would that have still been in the wake of the OJ, and because that's why we would have known her associated with
2007? You were spot on.
Wow.
You were
Wow.
spot on.
I didn't have the
my life
confidence, but-
hadn't my life hadn't started I hadn't started making bad decisions in 2007.
all right.
I feel like so
I was a
maybe
father of
maybe
young
I
kids
would.
at that time, so I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Yeah. You weren't watching the Kardashian sex tape.
I wasn't.
You were probably reading your kids books about farts and butts.
If that's what got them excited about literature, then that's what I would read about. Yeah.
Dude, one thing that caught me off guard though is this part of the article. The ruling, so basically this guy, these schools had all tried to take these books out. And so in recent years, school boards in Sci-Fair, Katy, and beyond have moved to ban books deemed too controversial, including young adult and children's books that show butts, cause sexual arousal, or depict LGBTQ plus relationships. Cause sexual arousal really caught me off guard because I'm like, who is determining, like, are adults reading these books and being like, this one is horny?
Yeah.
Like,
this
this
one's
one
too
makes
hot.
me
I know
horny?
it when I
Yeah,
see it,
yeah.
and that is over the line.
Yeah. They're reading books about kids' butts and farting and stuff, and they're getting hard. And then they want to ban it? It's like, dude, how about we investigate these adults?
Yeah,
huh?
I don't want the kids feeling the way I feel right now when I read the Farts and Butts book. I'm trying to think if I've read any like
Everybody
good books
Poops.
about. Oh, everybody poops. Yeah,
was a
yeah,
book that
yeah.
I read
remember
when
that.
I was a kid about pooping.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And the point of that book was just to be like, yes, it seems gross and it smells weird, but it's everybody does it. We're all normal, and it's just
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I haven't been embarrassed ever since.
Have you ever? That's good.
Yeah.
Have you
I'll shit
ever
right now, dude.
met a person who claims that they don't ever fart?
No.
I know we all sort of like when you meet somebody new, you sort of like try to
You
hold
lie
them in.
about how much you fart.
Yeah,
With
how
your
vile
butt.
it
You
is.
use your butt to lie.
right.
But no,
Yeah.
I've never met anybody say that they don't fart ever. That would be crazy. I would be like, you're lying.
Right. Yeah.
It's physically impossible for you to not be lying.
You would have to have just some kind of perfectly pH balanced diet to not give off a pocket of air or ever
But I think
swallow
even-
wrong or anything.
I think farts are kind of healthy too sometimes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's a survival technique, right? You gotta, yeah.
You, like a squid with ink.
Have you heard that do you hear that? Maybe this is a myth. I don't know that birds don't burp.
I have heard that actually.
And and something about like don't feed them that because it'll whatever and it hurts the birds.
it'll,
Like the rice at weddings.
Make them explode.
Yeah.
Rice I've heard because they can't, like, their stomachs are so small, dude. Like,
right, and they can't
eat a piece of rice. Yeah,
expands
fucking
and
shit.
Yeah,
fucks up their tummies.
yeah. But I've never like gone to a big wedding and then like a couple days later, like, what are all these dead birds laying around? Like, I don't know. So it could be.
Yeah,
could be
that
true.
is
I don't
true,
know.
Actually,
I'm sorry. That was a tangent, but
no, it's okay. That's what we're here for. Texas, they banned their butts.
So, what court did that get to? I'm sorry.
That happened at the Fifth Circuit Court. In the state of Texas.
Okay, so multiple appeals.
Yeah, multiple appeals, and it finally they were like, "All right, guys, come on. You're making a mockery out of all this whole law thing that we got going on."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that somebody stopped that. Yeah.
Somebody stood up for butts and farts, and the judge's name was Wiener.
Oh, okay,
so
good.
it's like that makes
That's good.
sense why he probably.
Yeah.
Was like,
maybe it was a personal for him.
Yeah, he's like, well, what's
next?
Yeah.
Wieners?
Yeah, they're coming for wieners. Guys can't be called wieners now. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. I was like, clearly this guy had a stake in this.
Yeah.
Honestly, they might be able to appeal it the other way because clearly this guy had some interests involved in the case.
Right. What are your grounds for appeal? Judge Wiener's paper.
We just feel like the judge was a little emotionally too close to the other side. Okay, let's talk about. This is the last thing I want to talk about for sure. And I just want to talk about something not porn related.
Okay.
But that's
kind of weird, but
it's sort of disgusting in a different way.
Okay.
I don't know if you read anything about this, but this guy recently wrote this book, and it's called 7 Shoulders: Taxonomizing Racism in Modern America. And the whole premise of the book is that this guy did blackface, like put like Maybelline on his face and hands, and wore an afro wig and like a hoodie to obscure the rest of his body, and hitchhiked across America.
Okay, so this was not like mocking blackface. He really like disguised himself.
It wasn't mocking blackface, but everybody was like, "Hey, dude, you don't have to do this. You could just talk to a black person,
right,
or whatever,
right. Or hire one.
You could hire a black person.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to do blackface. Right. And
it's like the AI art. We have artists.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like this whole situation where it's like bad.
Yeah.
It's like you shouldn't have done this. And he's calling it journalistic blackface. And I'm like, dude, that's just...
He's calling it that?
Yeah, that's what he's calling it.
No, this is journalistic. Like, there's so many. You're right. Do better. Do better.
And so this is an NPR article that I read about it. And they talked to the guy. And, he basically said... I didn't talk to any, like, I didn't get the opinions of any black people before I did this because that would be pandering. And I was like, dude, you're writing a book on
perspective
racism against black people in America.
Yeah.
Dude.
And it isn't the same. obviously.
No.
Like no matter how convincing the makeup is or the behavior,
You still
it
get
still
to take
doesn't
it
come
off.
with the history. Exactly.
Yeah, you still get to take it off. It's like, dude, you're not actually learning anything
Right.
about. You're learning what it's like to do blackface. That's all you're learning. Like,
write a book about that.
Yeah, the only thing that you can write a book about is what it's like doing blackface in that manner. It's not. You're not learning about racism. You're not getting any perspective. You could have just talked to one black person.
Yeah.
If you would have just asked, if you would have pandered a little bit, just a little bit of pandering, dude. Which I have a hard time believing that I guarantee you that if you read this book, there would be pandering in the book.
Oh,
Dude,
for sure. What does he claim to have learned in this mission? Do you know?
He's like, well, dude, his whole thing is that he kind of walked it back in this article and was like, well, I was examining racism in a very specific context of how it affects hitchhiking.
Okay. How it affects
That's it,
hitchhiking.
dude. Yeah.
I sort of didn't even really know there was still hitchhiking. Like I know that there is in a small way. This was, I mean, when I was a kid, this was a legit form of travel.
Right.
People did it quite a bit in the 70s.
My aunt hitchhiked a lot. But all that to say, it's like, dude, you could just get your black friend to go hitchhiking and see how it works out for them and stuff. Like, find somebody that's comfortable with doing it. Like, it's just, there's so many options that you could have before you're like, well, I have to do blackface.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds,
I don't want to.
It seems like exactly like an excuse that a guy came up with that was like, I need to figure out a journalistic excuse to do blackface.
When I heard you first say the title of the book, The Taxonomy, I thought it was going to be about like actually classifying the different types of racism and how, but this is a very specific mission.
Yeah, it's a very specific mission. And you know, dude, they talked to all kinds of people. They talked to like the NAACP, and they were like, well, of course we disagree with this guy doing that. Like, it's stupid. And he's holding firm. He's like, which I think is indicative of probably a lot of what this guy's got going on.
I was just watching, do you know the director John Waters? Yeah. So he did an experiment a few years ago, and this was after he was a successful director, and hitchhiked across the country.
Wow.
And just as him, not as costume. He didn't put on he didn't get divined to put on the
blackface.
Right. But he's got
hitchhiking in blackface.
But he was full John Waters, and he's got a look. He's got kind of a toned down Salvador Dali kind of vibe going, right? Yeah. And what he learned was that people who pick up hitchhikers have been through a rough time.
Yeah.
And they see somebody who's also having a rough time, and
sympathize with them.
He told somebody said, well, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I make movies. And the guy's like, oh man. And the guy gives him $10. Like, keep going.
That's so funny. I make movies. It's John Waters.
Yeah.
See, that's good though. That's a nice
I like it's an uplifting, and I would love. I was hoping that would be the same thing that this guy determined, was that people are just trying to like help somebody out.
Yeah,
but it turns out it was really just a makeup fantasy.
Nope, it's just a guy who had a really bad idea.
Yeah,
it's just one guy who had a really bad idea and did not think it through at all. He responded to the public backlash that said there were many people who are pleased with his work and likely afraid to speak openly. Yeah. Which, like, dude, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously this isn't necessarily always the case, but I would say that if you find yourself in a position where you're like, there's plenty of people who agree with me, they're just afraid to say so.
Yeah.
It's like you should do some self-reflection in that moment. That's like, you never want to find yourself in the position where you're like, nobody's coming to my defense because they can't publicly agree with me.
Right.
It's like, well,
I was Danielle was just talking the other day. You know, people talk about Trump as like telling it like it is. I don't want to turn everything into Trump.
No,
but
it's okay.
but that is he says the thing out loud.
Yes.
That connects to people who are hopefully ashamed of themselves, but at least know better than to say it.
Yes.
And so it's this thing, and it's like, so that's the fantasy of this, of I want to sort of halfway dip my toe in the pool that'll give me an opportunity to judge people.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is like an insane psychology. And dude, I completely agree with you too. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like this guy thinks that he's saying something that people either didn't already know,
right,
or that they have known but have been too afraid to say. But it's like, I don't even think that his book is like, I don't think that the conclusion of his book is that racism doesn't exist even. It's like, but it's like how it kind of to a certain extent is a little bit, because he did blackface.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
I think
like,
the thing that bothers me most about just the the hubris of it is that we finally, here's a white person to tell us that black people have it rougher.
Right, dude. It's like,
we know.
Yes.
We absolutely know,
Yes.
and we need to keep telling that story, but it's not your story.
Nobody needed this book. This book was this exact book. Like, if he would have written this in like the 1800s, then maybe if we would,
it could have reached an audience, and maybe some people could have heard the right kind of message from it,
in the way that he is like trying to be helpful, quote unquote. But like, dude, he said that he wouldn't talk to any black people about it, but he was reluctant to share what feedback he has received from any black friends or colleagues. And it's like, well, why are you reluctant? What did they say? Was it bad?
He's reluctant to share it, or reluctant to hear it?
Reluctant to share what they had said.
Oh,
He wouldn't tell NPR what, because they asked him, hey, did any of your black friends or colleagues give you feedback about the book, like after it came out? And he was like, I'm not willing to share an
actual black perspective.
He's like, well, I did have a white friend who put on blackface and told me that he liked it.
Said, finally, this is rad.
But I feel like that brings us to the end here, Mike. We made it 58 minutes. So surely it'll get trimmed down from that.
We'll cut out all the stuff that I said about,
but go ahead and plug your social media. Where can people find you?
Okay, thank you. You can find shows on Holloway 2000 on Instagram. And I'm doing a show in Excelsior Springs on the 21st of this month near the Elms. It's at a new venue, Firefly Events. Nice. And that's going to be a good show with Jamie Campbell.
Cool.
And while we're plugging stuff, I'll also say we have Fringe Festival coming up.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's second half of July in Kansas City. Tons of great shows. The Bird Comedy Theater is hosting many of the comedy-centric ones. Nice. And I'll specifically shout out, there's one called The Greatest Garage Sale Ever, which is Danielle's one-woman show. Nice. It's going to be amazing.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Check out all of that stuff. And I will have a link to all of it in the bio. Or not the bio, the description of this podcast. Great. It'll be in there. And you can follow this podcast at jakeand.off.podcast. And you can send anything at all to jakeand.off.podcast@gmail.com. I'll look at it at least one time.
This has been a pleasure, Jake. Thank you
for coming, Mike. I appreciate it. This was a fun time. I love talking about porn with you. You're one of my favorite people to talk about porn with.
I love the science of the stupid and the weird and the sexy. I love the science of the sexy.
Yeah.
and I think it is, as we open the show, it's such now intertwined in the human condition that we say things like food porn and fashion porn and whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like,
thanks, Ray J. Thanks a lot, Ray J.
That little simple butterfly wing flap
yeah,
that
we'd
sent
be-
us to where we are. There's no way that an African village would be yanking it without Ray J, if I may come full circle.
All right, we did it. That actually did. I feel like that's a good ending moment. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. Bye bye. I love you. Bye.